We are about 1 minute from starting. Commissioner Pierce, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Put all our things in. All right, it is 8:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Number 3 on the agenda is an invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Anyone wanting to speak during this agenda item must sign in prior to the start of the meeting. Any requested action items must be scheduled for a future meeting. And I don't see anyone here that would like to request that. Item 4 is the approval of the agenda. We have a couple of amendments to the agenda here. I'll have Stacy read those.
Under executive session, adding 125 to 3, consulting with legal counsel.
Any other additions to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Any comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 5 is our consent agenda items. We have approval of the minutes, approval of travel requests, approval of the personnel action notices, approval of the cellular authorizations, and approval of the human services report. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any comments? Any comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Pierce.
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 6 is our routine business. We have approval of claims. You have claims payables in the APR Department of Revenue. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on the claims?
Mr. Chair, I have a question, and I can't tell from what I'm looking at if the sheriff is there.
He is.
All those refund items on the 24/7 program, what's going on with that?
Marty, would you please come up and answer the questions from Commissioner Pierce? Would you like her to restate the question?
Yeah.
Please restate your question so he can hear it.
There were a number of refunds that were issued from the 24/7 program. I was just curious what's going on with that.
Okay, first of all, it's not county money, it's their money. And ahead of time, and there is, 24/7 is not going on, so we refunded their money until we start up again.
So the 24/7 program's totally shut down because of the virus, and we're just returning people's funds to them.
Correct.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Call the roll.
Boersma. Aye. Krogman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Bartley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B is our department head reports, and we'll start with Brian had submitted a written report, but please go ahead with your report. You can do it from your chair there if you'd like. We'll just let you be comfortable.
This last month, you can see there, the only addition there would be Aurora. There's quite a bit of interest. I haven't heard from all the townships yet, but I am getting out and looking at these prior to them making the application. Our structure south on 77, they're recommencing work as of yesterday. Water levels are below the flood stage level, so they are back to work. So hopefully we can see some good progress out of that. They got some decent weather. And reached out to local contractors on 413. We had our County Road 21 or 34th Avenue between the Bose overpass out there, Brookings County 26 or 32nd Street. We had some road breakup south of there, so I reached out to all the local contractors to try to make an effort not to use that stretch of road as it's deteriorating until we can get that fixed. I know we didn't do any actual resolution for this, but there again, like I said, I did reach out to them and they were pretty receptive of that to try to help us out there. And one of the things we've been working on this last month, we completed our crack sealing. So that's a lot of what we've been doing this last month, aside from a little bit of snow here and there, is doing our crack sealing. We are completed. That was roughly 40 miles in a month and a half, so hats off to the crew with that. The 14th, I went down and looked at a truck, and the reason I did that is we got told by our Mac dealer that their plant is shut down. We were working on putting specs together to bid this truck out to buy off Sourcewell, and as of right now, their plant's shut down, and they don't know if they can get us a truck this year. So that budgeted item of $230,000 that I had budgeted, I don't know if we'll be able to expend that this year. But we do have a need for a semi truck, not only now but in the future. So one of the things I would like to do in lieu of that is I looked at a used semi truck at a price of $47,000. It's an older truck. It's got some miles on it, but I think it'd suit our needs. I do have a few comparables attached also from around the state, just trying to find something local. They're right in the price range, and this truck doesn't need a whole lot, and we can put it to work. So I was just going to ask you guys if that would be a possibility to do that. And keeping in mind, too, when we bought our service truck, I paid $49,500 for that, and I had $100,000 budgeted. So even if we would manage to get the truck from Mac, we probably wouldn't be looking at seeing that until maybe late December or early January. But I would have that money from that service truck we purchased to be able to absorb that in my budget. So I don't know if we really need any action. I'm just wondering if I can get the okay to do this.
Any questions on that request? How many other places did you look for a used truck? I mean, I understand you're trying to do state bids. Is that how you do that even on used equipment, or?
Well, the used equipment, basically what I did, Mike, is I just went on the internet to the truck paper, and that lists all the dealers and everything around the state and in the nation. And I got those comparables, just ranging from, the early 2000s to 2007. And they're all, spread from that 45,000 to the 65,000, and then that 2007 on there, that was 72,000. So I guess that was how I did my comparables. I didn't really go out and look at every single one of them, but I did go look at this particular one. And I know a little bit of the history on it, I guess, too. The one that I would like to purchase as far as engine history.
Okay. Any other questions? You turn your mic on, Brian. Bring it
You
up
have a
close.
couple, because you're going to surplus
Yeah, we want to be able to surplus one, if not two units, if we do purchase this truck. Because we have, like I said, with this Mack, we would have surplus one for sure. So with the purchase of this, and if we do get that Mack, we'd probably most likely surplus two.
Okay. Without objection. Anything else in your report?
You should see the bill for that then on the next meeting as far as the claims go. And then 4/15/2020, after some severe erosion issues on one of our structures on 210th Street, it's over there by the cement bubble. And I know some of the commissioners have some passed on this. That is one of the structures that we're going to be looking at repairing to make sure we got safe travel right now. But it is one that we might have to move up or consider when we get to our planning stage here the next month. It's a series of 10 pipes. It was installed by the township back in the early 90s. And it's to the point now with the last couple of years with the heavy runoff we've had that these are really starting to show their age. And like I said, it was installed by the township. In lieu of that, it was looked at by the state. It ended up being a county structure. So that will be something that I just wanted to make sure you guys knew I was looking at in case you had gotten any calls.
Would that be a replacement with a box culvert or something of that nature if we
We're
did
going to
that?
be looking at options.
Okay.
Above this structure and below this structure, there's a bridge. There's a bridge on our county system, on our County Road 46, and then below that, there's a bridge on US 14. So in between it, we have a series of those 10 pipe, like I mentioned, and it just can't handle that type of flow.
So probably going to be looking at a bridge.
Well, we're going to look at the options. Being how this road doesn't see the amount of traffic, we can get away with basing it off a 10-year flood event, but installing something that we don't have to constantly provide maintenance for, like this structure has made us do this last couple of years.
And this is too small for a big grant. Would that be?
This would actually qualify. Like I mentioned, it's a series of 10 pipes, so it's considered a bridge just because of the spacing. But it's on a road that doesn't receive all that much traffic.
So it may not get the rating that we would
The
need.
rating might not be there.
Gotcha. All right.
Anything else?
That's all I have in my report.
Thank you very much. Vicki, your report.
Give you an update on our office. Even being closed, we're very busy. I think a lot of it is the motor V-Tron. Anybody that has purchased new vehicles, which I think the interest rate is way down, but we've got many people purchasing new vehicles. And so we've been doing it through our Dropbox, so they drop off the paperwork. We bring it into the office, and they leave their phone number. We call them with the amount due. So, and a lot of times they don't have all the paperwork that they need. So it's been almost a 3 times as long process to get it done, but we are getting it done, and the turnaround has been a day or two. The girls are really working hard to get that done. Plus, we've been using our Dropbox for payments for taxes. So the Dropbox is checked 4 or 5 times a day. I've even came up on the weekend and emptied out the Dropbox because we've had so many people using it. So everybody is really working hard down in our office on that. And we got the budget worksheets out to the department heads, so we're starting the process of working on budgets. And we also started absentee voting last Monday. We got our ballots in on Monday, so those have been I don't know, there's been some issues getting those just from the state. It's not anything on our part, but we did get the ballots, and so we started the absentee working, and Jenna's been working hard at getting workers at all the polling places, and I think she's going to talk to you on, we're having trouble filling the Arlington area polling place, vote center. So if you want to kind of talk on that, Jenna?
Yeah, I can do that. Thanks, Vicki. So I, along with many other auditors in South Dakota, are having a really difficult time finding election workers due to the COVID-19 Arlington location. We typically run with about 66 workers, and that's not counting the early voting absentee workers who prior to the election. We have 39 people who work at the polls, about 19 people working upstairs doing all of the ballots. They open up all the ballots, that absentee counting board. So there's about 19 of them that work that. And then there's probably about 8 people who work election night, running all of the ballots, bringing in all of those supplies. So it takes a village to do the day. Most people don't know this, but in statute, it states that you have to run with an odd number of workers at the polls. So for instance, in my Aurora location, there's not very many, but I can't run with one person. I have to run with 3. So, and your superintendent for this year has to be a Republican, and your deputies have to be a mixture of Republicans and Democrats. So I can't just staff the polling place. I have to be strategic when I'm planning who works where. And you also don't want to just staff a location with all new workers because there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of the behind-the-scene work. I've written letters to a lot of citizens. I've made a lot of phone calls. I've had a lot of no's. There's a lot of people taking this virus serious and staying home as they should. I've reached out to the Republican and Democratic committee chairs, Jim Gilkerson and Mary Perpich, and told them of my dilemma because they ultimately should be the ones who find the auditor's workers and help through that process. I did submit a press release to the Arlington newspaper seeking out workers, so we shall see what comes of that. I'm just letting you know all this because I've had thoughts and discussions about the possibility of pulling the Arlington location for this particular election. Voter turnout is quite low compared to the 10 other locations that we have and offer in Brookings County. In 2016, Trinity Lutheran had 25 people vote in the primary election. In 2018, they had about 86. But that's still quite low compared to all of the other locations. And in precinct 15, which would be that area, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe it's precinct 15, there's a total of 226 active and inactive voters in that location. So we do have 3 other locations in a 15-minute radius for those who are in Brookings County residents but reside in Arlington. We offer the Sinai location, the Bruce location, the Volga one, and we also have 4 locations right side here in Brookings. The state of South Dakota is pushing voters to vote by mail this year, as I am. The state is mailing every registered voter in South Dakota an absentee ballot application, and they should be doing that. I looked at the date, and it was the April 21st through the 27th. So people should be seeing those applications in their mailbox with a return envelope. And I too will be submitting a press release here very soon encouraging our voters to vote by mail this year. So I welcome suggestions and or thoughts on what to do. I have worked with Dan, so thank you, Dan, for getting back to me on what that process might look like if we ended up having to do that. I didn't print that off this morning, but.
No, that's fine. I can comment. Has the auditor sent out that first notice of publication for the election?
No.
Okay. So by law, if the commission feels that it's practicable or can communicate this, they can actually move the polling place outside of the precinct. And just so Leanne, I know you're listening. SDCL 12-14-9, I think, gives the county commission the ability to move the polling location outside of the precinct prior to that first notice of election going out. If the polling place is moved after, or it needs to be moved after that first notice of publication, then the county commission has to make a finding that that particular polling place is unusable for what is under statute can be a lot of different reasons. So if that timeline is still okay, I think we're within statutory law here to move it to some of these other precincts, as long as we're, noticing the Arlington voters that they have the ability to vote at some of these other precincts. So
Thank you.
part of that was just making sure that that first notice, or when that first notice had been sent out. And if you're saying it hasn't, we can still advise those Arlington voters that.
And when you say move, like, are you like find a different location for those guys, or just
No, so when I say
like,
move, they would
get rid-
just vote at another available
Okay.
precinct.
okay?
And,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, for the general election, it might look different, just with everything that's going on. But for this particular election, and with just everything that's going on right now, and the stay-at-home orders, and, just people are scared, they're fearful of it. So,
I
anyway,
guess
I
my-
would welcome suggestions and or comments.
I guess my question is what's our deadline if we have to make that decision? Is it our next meeting in May, or is it before that? Do we have to make a decision today? If you
That
can't
notice-
staff it, it can be moved.
That notice of election has to be noticed twice, and it's the couple weeks prior to the election, so it's
Yeah.
going to be the end of May. So I think May 5th is really our deadline to make any decisions on if the commission feels they need to weigh in on this. That's kind of what we're looking at as a deadline. The end of May may be too late.
Well, I appreciate the update then, and if you don't get any applications for that, or if you feel it's necessary to move it to a different precinct or combine a precinct, I guess I wouldn't have a problem with it. We can make that decision if we have to later, or you can plan ahead and make sure you have the other place staffed appropriately.
So are you looking for 3 workers then? Is that what you're looking for? Because you can't have 1, you can't have 2, so you have to have 3?
Yep, and I've got to have one that's willing to take charge of the election. And then, yes, their 2 deputies have to be 1 Republican, 1 Democrat. If I can't find a Democrat, I can use an independent or a no party. And we do hold training, but there's just a lot that goes into it. And, most people, they jump right on board. But for this particular season that we're going in, it's just been very difficult. And it's been difficult across the board. I've had many emails with auditors that we're just struggling all around, so.
And if the county commission is not inclined to move or double up on the polling place for Arlington, I could volunteer 2 of my staff to do the polling place on that June 2nd Tuesday. We would have to find a third, but I can move some things around to make 2 staff available for that Tuesday.
I appreciate that very much. And I think, we want to have the opportunity and that location for the few citizens that are in that area, that Brookings County area. There's not very many. I think there's 226, but, it's nice to have that option there. It's going to be a really long day.
Okay. Well, thank you for your report, and you just keep us updated if we
Thank
need
you.
to do anything else. Anything else, Vicki?
Yeah, you also received in your packet the finance officer's report and the be it noted items, the auditor's account with the treasurer, the payroll and additives totals, highway expenditure report, and register of deeds statement of fees. And also the general fund surplus analysis for the end of March was 9.12. which was down probably a couple percentage points, but with everything going on, I know Motor V was down quite a bit in March. You know, everything, you know, for revenue coming in was down. So hopefully we will make that up, but I'm not too concerned at this point with it being this low. Hopefully by the end of April, that should be moving up again, so. And we are just trying to do different Facebook posts, website posts, and press releases to let people know that we are here and that we are doing all the transactions. It's just a little bit slower and more of a cumbersome process, but we are here and we are working, so.
All right. Thank you, and we appreciate that. Mr. Hill, your report, please.
Good morning, yes. First, basically functioning as normal. In the last 21 days, we have given 9 buildings. We have had 10 in-person contacts, which means they give us a call and either meet us downstairs and we bring them up into the office, or else we go downstairs and transact the business at the doorway. We've been processing right to farm covenants, plats, took a trip to Volga for a conditional use permit, and we've gone on a field trip to take photos for the May planning meeting. We do plan on having our regular zoning meeting. It will be following the guidelines put out by the first planning district on having meetings, but we will conduct our May meeting as of this time. On the emergency management side, we've received hand sanitizer from Glacier Lakes through a distillery up in Clear Lake. They've donated to this actual building here, and city, county employees, several gallons of hand sanitizer. We've also had hand sanitizer donated by Valero, the ethanol plant out by Aurora. Theirs was directed mainly towards first responders, so the majority of Valero's donation has gone to the jail, highway department, and then my office kept some of there. We've provided majority of our N95 masks that we had in reserve to the jail. We are going to have to make a decision on resupply. The reason I had my N95s in reserve was mainly in case we have natural disaster and we have to send teams out to pick through houses and stuff like that and pick debris up and stuff like that. So I did have several boxes of N95s down in storage, which since then's all been, majority of them's gone over to the jail, and what hasn't gone will be going to the jail. So when this is over, we're going to have to replenish my supply of masks, and that resupply, plus any cost that the jail is incurring now, should be reportable and towards this COVID-19 FEMA response in itself. I did check into using the same type of grant for our Emergency Operations Center transfer switch down at the BCOAC, and unfortunately I received bad news on that one. They said that would not be a eligible item on the Emergency Operations Center. Any other masks that we do use and replenish, any of the gowns that the sheriff's office is ordering, all that kind of stuff, we will be able to claim on the FEMA declaration, but not the EOC supplies herself. And I used, because of health and welfare matters, that we lost our main EOC and we moved and all that, but they said, it just, unless the EOC is being used specifically, that particular EOC is being used specifically for COVID-19 response, there's nothing we'll be able to do on that one. And the EOC that we've got in place now over by the East Fire Station, it is being used by the city and the hospital for a call center, so they'll be able to claim any of the money that they put into that for use up until now will be able to be claimed on the FEMA under their declaration side of the house. Basically, the county acts as the umbrella. We go out and each individual entity files claims on what they're spending. So the city of Brookings will reclaim the phone lines and whatever they're doing over at the East Fire Station. My office we typically take the sheriff's office and the highway if there's any claims from there, and we stick them under our umbrella. So, and that's the news on that particular one. We have made contact with all the large employers in the county. That came from the hospital administrator and Commissioner Krogman, who sits on the hospital board. They contacted me and asked about what's going on we've got some rather large employers out in the county. So we made contact either email or by physical mail to all the large employers. And when I say large employers, we're talking confined animal feeding operations, ethanol plant, soybean operating plant, fish oil operating plant, those facilities. And I did get one reply back, which I found quite interesting, and this is from a large dairy. It said, we have got instructions in English and Spanish in large letters planted throughout the dairy. If any of our employees come down sick, we've got protocols for them to stay at home in full pay and quarantine. So they was taking the proper actions, which was good to hear on the report. We do have a radio ready to pick up in Sioux Falls. Unfortunately, I declined going down there because the location of where the radio is probably the hottest place in South Dakota. But when conditions warrant, we'll make arrangements to get that radio out of Sioux Falls. And other than that, it is severe weather week. There will be no siren test tomorrow. Typically, there's a siren test in the middle of severe weather week. But since COVID-19 is here, the National Weather Service decided not to do the siren test tomorrow. There will be you see a lot of public press releases on severe weather week and what to do and things like that and prepare. And rumor is it's going to be a severe outbreak of severe weather later on this spring up in the northern part of the country which we live.
Right.
In the report. Any questions?
Thank you. The report on the generator hookup not being funded by the COVID emergency shelter for Red Cross, we still have to have that hookup, is that correct?
Well, I would definitely recommend it because what we have to do in the county, we have to have an alternate emergency operations center. But also in the wintertime when we get the blizzard warnings and they start to shut down interstates and things like that, we have to pull vehicles off the road. And typically we try to put them into hotels if there's hotels available. But every now and then you get basketball trips and things like that where you might have a school bus size element. And my thought is the BCOAC is perfect with the archery range. You could pull a high school football team or basketball team in the wintertime and stick them in there, and they'd be safe until the roads are safe again. Versus us having to open up the Swiftel Center, which is going to be more manpower. Manpower-wise, it would be easier to use the BCOAC for a temporary shelter, overnight shelter for.
Our original cost estimate on that was what, about 20,000?
Approximately 22,000, I believe. We could get additional quotes, obviously, to see, but yeah, right now it's approximately $22,000.
Do we have that in anybody's budget at this point in time to authorize it for this year to be installed?
I do not have it in my budget.
Is there any other budget? It would be an appropriation.
Not specifically budgeted, no.
Well, we'll look into that for our next meeting and try and make a decision whether we want to. And I think you guys are going to have a meeting coming up shortly with the BCOC as far as having that hooked up and making it an operational for emergency shelter. Is that fine?
Yeah, I just, my 2 cents, I guess, I think it makes sense for that. I mean, it's a smaller location. To open up the Swiftel, you're going to have to go through the city, do all that kind of stuff, which if we need it, that's great, it's there, but it's a smaller area that if we have to do something for a day, and I like the location on the southern part of town, it's not very far from an access to the interstate if they need to come off the interstate either direction. I think it just makes sense.
Mr. Chair?
Good planning.
Commissioner Pierce?
I have a question for Stacy. In our county building fund, we have some dollars. Is it possible to use any of those for this type of project?
We could. I'd need to look to see what we would have. If there's any specific projects, I don't know right offhand, but yeah, there may be some dollars there that could be used.
I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and put this on our next agenda. We'll have a report on our actual costs, installation time, and where we're going to fund it from. Does that sound okay? Without objection, we'll put it on our next meeting. Marty, your report. Thank you, Bob, for your report.
Anyway, my office is anything but normal.
Okay.
I just want to let you know. I don't know what normal is anymore. Quarantine a deputy Friday. Came across the car off the interstate. The individual took off running and ended up being a parole ex-con from, not sure if he had the virus or not. He claimed he did, but he was also high on meth. But he went straight. He came in our facility, but we dressed up and everything. The deputy didn't have a chance to mask up and glove up before he made contact. And so medical said that we should probably quarantine the deputy. The test was fairly quick. We got the test Saturday afternoon, so I was able to free him. Again, it's the same deputy who was quarantined before, and he was glad to get out. University police assisted with that. They quarantined their deputy too, and then they had to quarantine the deputy's wife also because she's a police dispatcher. So they quarantined both of them. So it's interesting out there. What's going on and stuff. So I'm hoping things will improve. But everybody's a little on edge, and they have a right to be. I have 19 physical people in our jail right now, 19. I have 3 on work, GPS, homebound, home detention. I still have 1 inmate at Falk County that is charged with a sexual assault that I had to move him for safety reasons. I'm still not able to bring him back because the cell that I have full are all sex offenders. I can't put him anyplace else. My problem I have right now is quarantine cells. I have 1 inmate in a quarantine cell of a 4-man cell that puts me 3 down. So if I get another suspected, then I'll put him in that cell also. Now, it's also brought to my attention that our HVAC system may not be working properly. You've got to remember, my building is built in 1976. They didn't think about pandemics when they put in that HVAC system. I'm not sure if it's circulating the air right. If it's taking it out, filtering. What I'm worried about is if one cell has the virus, all the cells are going to get it because of the HVAC system. So I need to have that checked out. They're just putting that out. So what I am going to do is that I had suspended fingerprints, but I am going to allow fingerprints because I have a bunch of nursing students that need to take their clinicals so they can get out in the workforce, and we need the nurses out there. So I am going to open up for fingerprinting. The only good thing about my jail right now is that I have an outside door to what I had the juvenile holdover. And so we're going to do the fingerprint in that one area. They stay in that one area. They're going to mask up and everything as they come in. And that's going to be kind of phase 1 of starting to kind of come back to normal. And I hope by June I'll be able to phase in everyone, and hopefully we'll be back to normal. I'm not going to talk about the jail decision because I'm going to let the taxpayer take care of that.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Yes.
Any questions for the sheriff? Hearing none. Items. Under regular business, action A is an action to approve resolution number 20-14, a plat of lot 1A, Block 2, Sunset Point Addition, and government lots 3 and 4 of Section 22, Township 112 North, Range 47th, west of the 5th Principal Meridian, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Any comments? No comments? We'll call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B is an action to approve resolution number 20-15, a plat of East Water Tower Addition in the east 1/2 of the southeast 1/4, except the south 888 feet thereof, and except the north 33 feet, highway right-of-way thereof in section 23-1 Township 110 North, Range 51 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and second. The only comment I got, does anybody know where that's at besides me? That was,
Yeah, my question, that was the same thing. So is that, do they have a joint jurisdiction in Volga?
They do not, sir. They have looked at a joint jurisdiction in the past. This will be annexed into the city limits immediately after this is approved.
After we do it, okay. Because I was just, that's right across the street from city limits and platted lots, and it kind of surprises me that we would have control right across the street compared to somebody there.
Yeah, but as of this time, there is no joint jurisdiction in Volga. They're the ones requesting the plat so that they can purchase it to put their water tower up.
So this is the city doing that.
Yes, sir.
Has there been any discussions about identifying a joint jurisdiction area around Volga?
There has. The first planning district, Luke Mueller and Todd Kays, they've been working with Jamison Burith over there on a joint jurisdiction ordinance. I don't know what the status of it is yet.
Okay. I've just, long-term planning, there's good growth there. We need that growth of Volga, in the area. And so I think some good planning there for housing and where that housing needs to go, rather than somebody putting a feedlot next to it or something like that, So just want to, and if, like I said, if we can participate in that and help that out, I think we should as a county be in that conversation.
I'll let Mr. Barrett know that.
All right. Thank you.
any other comments or questions? If not, we'll call the roll.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item C is an action to approve resolution number 20-16, a plat of lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8A, and 9A, we didn't quite get to 10, in Cedar Point Addition in Government Lot 3 of the northwest quarter section of Section 28, Township 109 North, Range 50 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded. We did hear that, Commissioner Pierce. Well, duly noted. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Hill.
Please.
Bob, on the report in the packet, it says application plans have been submitted for Historical, Corps of Engineers, and Game Fish and Parks for review and approval. That's an unusual thing to see on a plat. What's going on there?
No, that's required for the shoreline modification plans that they had to submit for, which they did submit.
Have any of those come back yet?
I guess I will have to get back to you with that answer, ma'am. I do not know.
Does that, if any of that doesn't meet any one of those requirements, does that affect the platting at all?
It would not affect the platting, it would affect the use of the actual plat itself.
Okay.
I mean,
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll get you an answer.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item D is an action to approve resolution number 20-17, a plat of Block 21, Block 22, Block 23, Silverthorne Circle, and Castle Rock Circle of the Timberline Addition in the east, 1,635 feet of the north one-half of the north one-quarter, except Clyte's Addition, and except the east 264 feet thereof in Section 34, Township 110, Range 50 west of the 5th Prime Meridian. Is there a motion to approve of Brookings, South Dakota? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions?
Bob, again, doesn't the joint jurisdiction take this? Why do we have this?
As far as I know, it isn't a joint jurisdiction, but it's actually zone agricultural at this time. So for it to become into the city limits, it has to be zoned. It has to be platted probably, then they're annex it into the city.
Okay.
See, if it was zoned like B or R, then it would be a joint jurisdiction thing, but
And the city would
since it's
control it.
ag zoned and typically someone would keep a property like this in ag mainly for property taxes.
Yep.
And then when it comes time to go into the city. This is not a buildable site unless it is inside the city limits.
Right.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Boersma?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item E is an action to approve abatement number 20-28, an abatement application made by Dustin Nelson for parcel number 31026-00100-003-05 in the amount of $1,473.16. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Vicki?
With this one, it ended up being on the tax rolls twice. The next one is the same way. There was a split, and it ended up being in there twice. So it's just to take it out so they aren't double paying on that for this one and the next one.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item F, an action to approve abatement number 2029, an abatement application made by Dustin Nelson for parcel number 31026-00100-004-05 in the amount of $487.46. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Jensen?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item G is an action to approve agreement number 20-16, an application for an occupancy of right-of-way of county highways made by Big Sioux Community Water System in Trenton Township. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments?
I talked with the installer on this, and we originally intended to run on the west side of the road, but due to the utility locations, we decided to run run it on the east side of the road, so they will have to bore under the road.
Any other questions or comments? Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item H is an action to approve agreement number 20-17, an application for occupancy of right-of-way of county highways made by Sioux Valley Energy in Sterling Township. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments?
Just replacing a bad wire.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item I, action to approve a request to fill vacancy for 2 temporary seasonal laborers in the highway department. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments?
One of our employees is active in the guards, and he is going to be deployed here in May, or beginning of June. And in his absence, if we hired these 2 part-time employees, by the time the weed and pest guys would be completed with their duties at the weed and pest, we'd have these guys back, or those 2 guys back to kind of fill in that void. So just over the summer.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I did one.
Comments?
Brian, will these guys required to have a CDL, or they're just,
These guys will not be required to have a CDL. I was gonna ask you guys about that. If they did want to get their CDL, we had one part-time seasonal guy last year. Would the county be willing to, supply our equipment to help these guys get their CDL? I mean, the costs of the testing and stuff would obviously be on them, but would you guys be willing to use our equipment to get them that portion of the testing done?
What have we historically done for people in that?
Well,
Position.
this is a unique one, when we hire our regular full-time employees, we do supply our equipment, but as far as these part-time guys go, we have not.
I don't see any reason we wouldn't, but go ahead.
yeah, once they're hired, I mean, they're covered under our insurance, they should be able to
Okay.
use vehicle to,
We do have one guy that is coming, or that'd be looking at coming back, and he has expressed interest in getting his CDL. And he's currently a full-time student at the school here, so he won't be graduating this year. He'll be graduating next year, so we could be looking at getting him again next summer too. So,
All right. Any other comments or questions? Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item J is an action to approve a request to fill vacancy for a finance assistant 2 in the finance office. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? Any comments? Any questions? Hearing none? Are you, Vicki, you have a comment?
It was just, this request to fill vacancy was due to the reorganization. And with this, one of the front counter people applied and is moving into that position.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item K is an action to approve a request to fill vacancy for a finance assistant 1 in the finance office. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments on this position? Vicki?
This is the open up at the counter position, and we would like to fill that as soon as possible. If we don't have any candidates that would be good candidates, we would leave that, or, open it again. But even with us being closed, it would be a good time to train, and with the mail situation, phones and everything, we would keep them busy.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item L is an action to approve a request to fill vacancy for temporary election workers in the finance office. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Motion been made and seconded. Any comments? I think we probably covered most of this earlier, but, all right. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 9 was the Commission Department Director's Report.
Attached to my less information, Vicki had already kind of discussed this as part of her finance officer's report. We're at the 9.12% at March month end. That is a little bit lower, about 3% maybe lower than the 10-year average. But again, like we said, we kind of foresee that maybe coming back up here at the end of April as some revenue sources start coming back in. Also attached to my report was an update on the departments and kind of what they're doing for staffing right now during the pandemic. You can kind of just see a brief snapshot of what each of the different offices is doing. Don't know if you had any questions about that, in particular, what people are doing. And then lastly, in addition to my report, would be Dustin Huber, our director out at the BCOAC, started yesterday. He has been working with Alex and Alex Luke and DJ Reeker out there, kind of trying to get him up to speed here this week. I'll be working with him later this week too, training on claims and doing a few other things. While I was out there yesterday, introducing him to the part-time staff that we have out there, of course, the discussion led to when will we be able to reopen that facility? And they had some suggestions about, looking at possibly opening it up to members only. I think we've had some discussions then with Ryan on that, and what that may look like. Obviously, putting some protocols in place for the safety of RSOs, the members coming in, and our staff out there. So that's a discussion item to be had, to be determined, but there was some discussion about that. So
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I guess, there was some discussion out there of possibly starting to open up to, and we have a meeting scheduled, our monthly meeting. We did not have one last year for the BCOAC Advisory Board, and we have one scheduled for Monday. And so we're going to have that meeting. I think it's important there now that Dustin's there that he can be there also. We're making it available. We'll be able to, separate ourselves at a safe distance, but also if somebody's not comfortable going there, they can call in. But I think it's important for us to have a meeting. We haven't had one in a while with Dustin coming on, but I think we also need to have that discussion about a limited opening and what that would entail. And I think we want to get input from our volunteers. And so I guess if it's okay with you guys, I think we'd look to try to talk that through here on this next Monday. And if we can kind of get everybody on board, are you guys okay with limited opening to this to members? You know, obviously, we will go through a lot of protocols that we do of asking the questions and wearing protective gear and that kind of stuff, and closing down certain lanes and all that protocol. But you know, not opening it up to the general public. Some other ideas is not renting guns. The members would have their own ammunition, their own guns, and that kind of stuff. And then when they would go through, they go through certain protocol and stuff too. So if you guys are okay with that, I think we could have that discussion on Monday. And if it works and we get a consensus, we'd look maybe at even opening it up May 1st to members. But wanted everybody here on the commission to be aware of that. And if there's a problem, if you have, you know, concerns about it, let us know. We can bring those up during that discussion, and we can go from there. So,
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I think that's why we have an advisory board, and I'm comfortable with them making those decisions as long as they're following the guidelines that our emergency management office is telling everybody else to follow. So I think that's perfectly fine, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Krogman to please speak into his mic. Thank you.
okay.
Duly noted. All right.
All right. Is
Stacy,
everybody okay with
anything
that?
else? Absolutely. I think you need to start moving forward with those plans, even plans after that. This is going to continue for the rest of this year, more than likely, with some sort of precaution. So if they discuss not only opening it to members, but what happens when we open it to the public, and what metrics we have to see in order to do that. So good conversation. Stacy?
I don't have anything else unless you have questions for me.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Please?
Stacy, is there some way we're tracking, I'm reading the NACO stuff and the other things that are coming online from other counties, is there any way we're tracking what the budgetary consequences of the virus is going to be to our county? And I've heard some comments today, like from the sheriff, the 24/7 refunds, and when Vicki was talking about Motor V being down, and I'm not quite sure because when I looked at those Register of Deeds figures, I didn't go back and look at prior months this time of the year to see how that differed. But are we tracking any of that?
I am not specifically, no. I don't know if Vicky's doing anything. I think it would maybe be looking at comparison information from previous months or previous years to see what the difference is and if it correlates.
And I do have that information, so I can put something together. Motor V was down last month by total collected about $200,000. Most, or not most, but 2/3 of that is state money. But it is down, but just with what we've had this month, with it not being a motor vehicle month, I think that we are making up for it. But we won't have those figures till the end of the month. But I do have those figures, and I can put something together for the next meeting.
And I don't necessarily know, well, and it's nice to know meeting to meeting, but I think when this is all over with, there might be some opportunities to recoup some of that, and if we're not keeping track of the numbers, we aren't going to know what it is that we're going to be asking for. So, and it looks to me like BCOAC, for example, we're losing money out there, and whatever else. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Stacy? Hearing none, we'll have the state's attorney. We'll start with Commissioner Borsma.
Do we want Commissioner Pierce to be able to go,
Okay.
in normal order or no? Don't care?
Don't care.
Go backwards. So last night, we had our Brookings Behavioral, and that organization, I think, can be commended quite a bit for being super proactive about reaching out to institutions and organizations across the community to make their services available. They've been in contact with the hospital, I know, the school district and several others, just to make sure that the mental well-being of those who are frontline workers are being addressed in a proactive manner. And part of their ability to pivot really quickly, I think, comes down to some of the financial support that we've given the city this year and First Bank and Trust in the form of a grant to upgrade a lot of their technology and personnel. So they were able to pivot really quickly compared to other organizations that maybe had more of a struggle. So that telehealth and telephonic services have been going pretty well for them the last month. And just as a reminder to this group and the public that those services are available through Brookings Behavioral Health and Wellness. But that's the only meeting I've had those last 2 weeks.
Important. Commissioner Krugman.
Yeah, I have just talked a lot on the phone. How things are being run and all that kind of stuff, how we're handling things in the county. But I have not had any meetings. Next week I have 3 of them, so we'll see if they all take place via Zoom. Right now they are planned for that. So, yeah, I think most of the meetings now moving forward will not be attending more doing Zoom, except for our BCOAC. We will allow people to come to that one. So that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Judd.
At our tax appeals meeting. Today at noon, I have an extension board meeting. I'm sure some of the talk will be on achievement days and the state fair. Kids are looking forward to their livestock projects and wondering if they should be moving forward or what's going to be going on. That's just something to keep in mind. I did have a few calls on load limits. In the questions are how long load limits will be on. It's a question that comes up every spring, and it's basically determined by the weather. Maybe Brian could.
I've been talking with other counties, and I think everybody kind of knows the norm is we all try to put them on around the same time and take them off at the same time. And we're in communication, but we're looking towards the end of April here.
That's all I have to report.
All right, thank you. My report will be rather quick. I've had a lot of phone conversations, different participations in Zoom meetings, and go-to-meeting meetings, and Mr. Hill and the local group of people who meets regularly on a basis to update us on the COVID response that we've had in the community, the PPC committee and others. It's a fluid, dynamic situation. It seems to change every other phone call. It's kind of leveled off a little bit because the cases haven't increased here locally. So that's good. And the plans have changed from what we may have envisioned it being, because we didn't envision it being this way, a pandemic in this kind of proportion. So a lot of correspondence from the federal level and from NACO and from the state health department. It kind of blows up my phone on the county side once in a while with about 6 or 7 a day that some of them are repetition, and some of them you can read through the first 4 pages are the same thing in the last email. You got to get to the information that's important in the last one. So a lot of time on the iPad and my phone reading those things. So that's completes my report. Commissioner Pierce, you have a report.
I do. April 14th with the rest of you, and similar to everyone else, I have Zoom meetings coming up this week, but didn't have any other meetings. But what I would like to talk about in my report is I was really disappointed with the City Council's press release yesterday that they have decided to appeal the Circuit Court's decision on the jail expansion project. As you guys know, the Circuit Court ruled in March in the county's favor on every issue raised in the lawsuit. In other words, the court did not find in the city's favor on any single issue, and the court authorized us to move forward with the jail remodel project. And it appears to me that the city has spent approximately $40,000 to date doing what the Circuit Court found to be overreaching in the matters which, by South Dakota law, are the sole responsibility of the county. When they file their appeal, they're going to spend even more money for that. Every step taken by the city and its unreasonable actions, which are designed to interfere with the obligations that the county and the sheriff have in operating the county jail, costs our taxpayers and is particularly expensive for people who live in the city limits of Brookings, because those citizens pay litigation costs incurred both by the city and by us operating as the county. The city's actions have already cost the county hundreds of thousands of dollars in delayed building costs on the jail, and I think it's important for our citizens to know that. And I don't know what else to say about all this except for the city can choose to dismiss its appeal at any time, and that would allow the county to start building this fall as we plan to do. This is a project which currently is budgeted at approximately $15 million, and it would employ a lot of people in the city of Brookings at a time where our economy could use that boost. And I just want to put in my report how disappointed I am that the city is moving forward in this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pearson. I guess I would concur with you with my disappointment in that action. I think, as the sheriff had made a comment earlier, the taxpayers will make a final determination whether they want to encourage the city to dismiss the action in court, the Supreme Court, and I hope that the citizens that have that point of view will speak up to the city council and make those thoughts known, either pro or con for it. That's our democracy. We can have both views, but my view is I am disappointed, and I concur with your response, your remarks, Commissioner Pierce. I hope that we can move forward, understand that we are at 95% of our construction documents completed. We're at a point where we would have to delay that, and it's I think it'd be a pretty good bid season for us, in my opinion. And I would hope that we can continue to move quickly rather than delaying the process at this point. Any other comments? Hearing none. We have an executive session in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, parentheses 6 for security information, and 3,
3, consulting with legal counsel.
consulting with a legal consultant. Is there a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. We will take a 5-minute recess at the most, and we'll meet in executive session.
Stacy, do I call back into the same number? How does that work?
Yes, we're going to set up this bridge call in the exec session room. So you'll call back here in a minute. I'll shoot you a text